Happy Easter. It's been an Easter kind of week. A lot of church going, a lot of thinking, a lot of remembering why we come to church. So last week I talked about Palm Sunday because that was the beginning of the week. This week I'm a little late because it's a little crazy around here, you can imagine. You can see how beautiful the altar looks. So, you know how I think. I think simply, and this is not a simple concept this week. It's filled with activity. Jesus' last week on earth was filled with a lot of stuff. And so what I thought I would do is just talk a little bit about what happened, because we basically know what happened, and then see what we learned from that. So on Sunday of the last week that he was on earth, that Jesus was on earth, they had that triumphant entry into Jerusalem, meaning he got to ride a donkey and he got to go in and people loved him and were shouting for him. But as the week went on, it got a little bit worse, a little bit darker. So then by the time Friday came around, he was not so much getting people shouting for him, but shouting at him and angry at him. There's a lot of stuff going on. Most of which was God saying, listen, you got to do this. You got to help these people. So Jesus went through with it. So on Thursday night, they celebrated Passover. And then at the end of the dinner, Jesus told the disciples, listen, I'm not going to be here much longer. You need to remember me, and you need to tell people about me. And then on Friday, the soldiers came and they got him, and they brought him to Pontius Pilate, and he had to be crucified. In the story, Pilate asked the people, do you want me to crucify Jesus? And they said yes, because they were angry. And I don't know why. I don't know what was said to them, except probably people were trying to put into their heads that this was not God's son and not the Savior, but another person. We know now that's not true, but back then they didn't know. So what happened? What happened? I'll tell you what happened, and you know this. Jesus had to be put on a cross, because that's how they did things back then. And they put him on a cross. And people made fun of him and hurt him and made it as hard as possible for him to do what he needed to do. It was a rough time. And he knew it was going to happen, and he did it anyway. He knew he was going to get hurt, physically hurt. He knew that people were not going to believe him, which had to be even harder. He knew that God set this up. His Father set this up for him. But he also knew the reason why. So he did it, knowing it was going to be bad, knowing that instead of giving them water, they gave him sour wine like vinegar, knowing that they were going to poke holes in him and yell at him, and so he did it. And then he asked God to forgive everyone, and he passed away. He died. That happened on Saturday. It was dark. It was sad. We were here last night, Good Friday night, at church, and the whole service was set up to get darker and darker, with all the points of view of all the people who were there that night. The ones who still believed in him, the ones that were angry with him, the ones that didn't believe in him. And himself, his words, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they've done. It was about as dark as it could get. And then he died. And then you had that that incredibly long period of time for Mary where they took him down and put him in the tomb, but she couldn't do anything about it because it was the Sabbath. It was their holy day. So you have Good Friday with all the darkness, all the pain, all the fear on Jesus' part, on everybody else's part. Then you have Saturday, which is a period of waiting, which to me would probably be a little bit worse. Waiting to be able to take care of your son. And then you have Sunday morning. And Mary, Jesus' mom, and another Mary came to the tomb to take care of their child, her child. And she gets there and it's open. And he's not inside. The fear as a mom, when that happened, had to be unreal, unbearable. The darkness of Friday, the waiting on Saturday, and then he's not there. It had to be unbearable. And then, through a series of events, she realized he wasn't dead anymore. He was alive. He was alive. I'm a mom. I'm a teacher. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. To lose a child, I can't even imagine. I know what it was like to almost lose a child, and that almost broke me. So I'm kind of with Mary on this one. The darkness and the fear, the unknown. It's almost something that you don't think you can handle ever. And Mary had other children, but this was her first. This was her child. This happens to people. It happens now. The pain of someone's life. Maybe losing a child, maybe losing a parent or a loved one. Maybe knowing that you can't help your child, that they have to go through what they have to go through. Maybe your husband is sick and you can't fix it. These are really, really tough things. And people go through them. And if you don't, God bless you. But there'll be other things. And you almost can't bear it. But here's what happened to Mary. She still went back. She saw him die. She saw the way people treated him. She had to wait that whole day on Saturday to be able to see him and help him in his death. And she goes back. And the stone is gone. And his body is not inside. And then she realizes he's alive. And she sees him. He's alive and he's talking to her. And she has to tell people. She runs and tells his friends. The amount of craziness in her life right now, in her body, is crazy. But she did it. She got through it. And God got her through it. Jesus got her through it. Bad things happen. They are always, always going to happen. The worst possible thing that could happen to Mary happened. And it wasn't slow, it wasn't fast, it wasn't boom, it's done. It was slow. It was a slow process. She knew all along that there was going to be something bad happening. She just tried to keep going. And she did. And he helped her. And she got to that point where it had happened. And then he was alive. It wasn't dark anymore. The sun came out. The light came out in her life. We have to remember this. When we eat and we drink and we remember that Jesus died for us, let's remember Mary and what she went through and came out the other side. Let's remember that as dark as our lives can get, there will be sun, there will be light. It will come. Jesus taught us that. The other stuff doesn't matter. The stuff that matters is knowing that God is there, knowing that it's going to get better, that God's going to get us through it. The stuff that matters is how we treat other people. The other stuff doesn't matter. We don't need to go crazy about individual little things. As long as we know that what we're doing and what we're feeling is only kind, is only helping. And if we know that God is there for us and is going to bring back the light, that's all that matters. Jesus did that for us. Because no matter the sin, if you truly are sorry, you will be forgiven. Meaning, you could still be in God's world. You can still have this great life and get through the hard stuff. There's a passage in Isaiah, and this was written before Jesus was born, but it was about the Savior, which we now believe is Jesus. And this is what it says. Isaiah 53, 3-7. He was hated and rejected by people. He had much pain and suffering. People would not even look at him. He was hated and we didn't even notice him. But he took our suffering on him and felt our pain for us. We saw his suffering. We thought God was punishing him. But he was wounded for the wrong things we did. He was crushed for the evil things that we did. The punishment which made us well was given to him. And we are healed because of his wounds. We all wandered away like sheep, and each of us has gone in his own way. But the Lord has put on him the punishment for all the evil we have done. He was beaten down and punished, but he didn't say a word. He was like a lamb being led to be killed. He was quiet, as a sheep is quiet while its wool is being cut. He never opened his mouth. We have been given a gift. And the gift is this life. And in this gift, there are some tough times, some dark times. But God's going to get us through it. We're going to go from the dark into the light. And the way he's doing it, the way he did it, was to send his son to take the punishment for us. Mary went through pain like I can't imagine, and came out the other side. Jesus was sent so we could be part of God's world, so we could have help going through those tough times. I know you're going through something really, really hard right now. I do know that. I also know it's going to be okay. It's not going to be perfect. You might not get what you think you want, but it's going to be okay. The sun's going to come back out. It's going to be light again. And I don't know that it's going to be light because things are going to get fixed, but maybe because we will have learned how to deal with it. We will have learned to work through the problems. We will have learned that we can survive. I know this is going on a very long time. I'm sorry. Bottom line is, we'll get through it, and we'll be with God. And Jesus made that happen. So as you go through your rough times, just keep in mind, the sun's going to come out. It's going to get bright at some point, and in the meantime, I will get through this, and God, please help me through this. So tomorrow, celebrate. Celebrate that Jesus is alive, and that you have a place to go, and somebody to be with. I love you a lot. I miss you. But we'll be together soon. Have a good week. Take care.